The View implodes while talking about Democrat politicians sweeping Joe Biden's mental health decline under the rug now that it's resurged into public conversation. The battle breaks out because some ladies on the panel, and I bet you can guess who, want to ignore any wrongdoings by the Democrats and remain as Trump deranged as possible. And other ladies on the panel are recognizing that this is actually the biggest scandal probably in American political history, where democracy was essentially overthrown for a period of 4 years, and all the hardship that the American people had to endure could have been prevented if people didn't knowingly and willingly prop up a dead person. As always, like the video and subscribe to the channel. You guys are gonna love this one. There's a clip of Alyssa and Sonny getting catty with each other towards the end. But let's start with Sarah calling out the Democrat Party for blatantly ignoring what the people were saying.
But I do think one thing that really irks me on the left, and I don't really have a lot of faith in the right, so I'm not, you tend to criticize the people that you line up more, that you care more about, and that would be the Democrats for me. People lost trust in them because the voters were saying there was a concern. There were people across the board saying they had a concern. And the Democrats said, no, 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 over here, look over here. They told the voters what to care about, and they did not listen when the voters said they cared. So these stories come out aren't about beating a dead horse. It's saying if they could have a fair conversation that we heard you, we saw it as they saw it, they'd be gaining some of the voters back to say, okay, we're not going to keep saying that.
You agree with that?
Do you think Sonny's going to agree? Or do you think she's going to say something so dumb you probably didn't even know it was possible? But here's what Sarah's not understanding. Here is why they all want to move on and move forward and ignore it completely. Because the Nancy Pelosi's, the Chuck Schumers, the Hakeem Jeffries, the Barack Obamas, they all know this isn't some little cover-up. This is exposing something to the American people that we all knew, but now can't be denied in even the slightest way. That for 4 years, Joe Biden was not the actual president. We have no idea what Joe Biden knew he was signing, what he didn't know he was signing, who was signing things on his behalf. Think about this, right? Joe Biden opposed integration with black kids. Joe Biden opposed gay marriage. But now we're all supposed to believe that Joe Biden, in his heart of hearts, believes that men can become women and that children should be indoctrinated in that philosophy by their teachers against the will of their parents. Joe Biden is now such a staunch supporter of the LGBTQ community that it was his idea to put pride flags on the White House. The entire thing was a farce, and the entire Democrat establishment was complicit in trying to cover it up, telling the American people that their eyes were deceiving them. You know they were lying by how they would exaggerate their explanations. It wasn't just, yeah, Joe Biden's fine, Joe Biden's good. It was, Joe Biden is the sharpest he's ever been. Oh, I've known Joe Biden 50 years and this is the best I've ever seen him. Oh, I can't keep up with Joe Biden. And while they can lie to the American people, that's scandalous. You know who they can't lie to? The leaders of foreign adversaries. Vladimir Putin is meeting this guy. Xi is meeting this guy. And they see that he can't complete sentences. He doesn't know where he's at. And they're going to operate in reality. They're not looking at the American media to clarify whether Joe Biden was mentally fit or not. They could see it. They knew it. And that's why over his presidency, you had China build up and start being more aggressive to Taiwan. You had Russia invade Ukraine. You had Iran feeling emboldened enough to give Hamas the green light to attack Israel. These are real life consequences of our president being not there and the Democrat establishment keeping him there. And because it's that severe, that's why the Democrats are so incessant on trying to move forward and sweep this under the rug and not have to talk about it. Because if they do, it'll reveal they're just as complicit in ruining the lives of the American people and destabilizing global security. But now, sorry for my rant, let's get into whether Sonny agrees or not.
No, I don't. I think that I want to move on from why the Democratic Party lost, and I want to hear from the Democratic Party about how we are going to take our country back and how what they are going to do to combat fascism and what they're going to do to stop the Medicaid cuts that are going on, to stop giving tax cuts to billionaires, to stop taking federal workers' pensions away, to stop taking federal jobs away, to stop taking education away, to stop attacking our institutions, to stopping, why is this Trump administration stopping medical research, cancer? I want to talk about why this administration is giving refugee status to South African white Afrikaners as opposed to Afghans and Ukrainians and people of color. That's what I want to talk about.
She is such an unlikable person, but I don't want to read into the tea leaves too much. But my reading into what she's saying, and it ties into why James Comey posting the 8647 thing is actually so dangerous, is because everything she listed, we need to fight this, we need to stand up for this, we need to stop this. Any rational person understands that the Democrats don't control the House, they don't control the Senate, and they don't have the presidency. So what fundamental things can they really do to obstruct any of these things? They've done their protests. They've done their sing-songs. They've done their show up at government agencies because Elon Musk is there. They've done their filibustering. They've done their performative antics. They've done their lying. They've done their smearing. They've done quite literally everything possible. And yet she still calls for more. The only rational conclusion I can draw, and maybe it's my fault for trying to draw rationality from what Sunny Hostin says, is that they're calling for violence. It's not like she's asking them to develop a plan, to get prepared, to start sifting and finding a good quality candidate. She's asking for resistance. She's asking for opposition. And again, they refuse to want to look at the whole Joe Biden situation because Democrats are allergic to accountability. They can't for a second stand to believe that they are wrong, that they are at fault, because they think they're so virtuous, they're so smart, they can't make mistakes, they're perfect people. But yet they'll willingly stay in a confused state, refusing to understand, oh, how could the American people vote for the 34-time felon? How could the American people vote for the insurrectionist? How could they vote for the fascist? It's easier for them to believe that the other side is just evil and stupid, rather than they put a demented person into office and then engaged in a 4-year misinformation propaganda campaign through the media that the guy was fine while the world was burning around us. Now, this is where Alyssa comes in and starts checking Sunny like, I'm not playing this game anymore. This man is not mentally fit. Now, make sure you stick to the end because I have a clip of Alyssa going on CNN and slaughtering Joe Biden for his interview on The View.
77% of Americans in 2023 said Joe Biden was too old to run again. And they were told, sit down, shut up, he is the nominee. And then when it became untenable and he stepped aside, they anointed Kamala Harris. There was not a primary, there was not a democratic process. And then when she lost, they said, don't look backward, we're moving forward, we're not even going to talk about why we didn't listen to you. We had Joe Biden here last week. It was an honor to have him. I think he is a good man. I do not think he could have been president for 4 more years. The hardest job on the planet.
Can this guy be president?
He was elected. I didn't vote for him.
Real quickly, but he also, President Biden took responsibility at this table, which is something that I'm frustrated with the Democrats. He said,
he did take
this falls
responsibility.
on me. And I said that was the clearest answer of what people needed to hear.
But I don't know if you guys caught that. When Alyssa mentioned that they anointed Kamala Harris in an undemocratic way, Sunny chimes in the background and goes, I don't think that was wrong because she's a hypocrite. She claims to believe in democracy and the rule of law and the institutions, but we know they don't. But I'm not going to talk too much. I'm going to let Alyssa continue on her tirade because she brings up some amazing points. But watch how Joy Behar tries to deflect by saying, oh, but Trump bad, and the crowd just eats it up. Take a look.
People are quoted in this book of saying they would be boxed out of meetings if they raise concerns, and there's very specific examples. George Clooney goes on the record to Jake Tapper and says he moved mountains. He flew in from Italy to do this record fundraiser for Joe Biden. Joe Biden didn't recognize George Clooney. One of the most recognizable, men on the planet. And now that's not a presidential duty. It's not the job. You don't have to recognize George Clooney. But does that give you confidence that in the middle of the night, if China's about to attack us, there's a war breaking out in Iran, that he is the sharpest person to be able to handle that?
Which administration texted war plans to their brother?
The Trump. But it's
Was
just
that
like
Joe Biden?
No, but do we just keep lowering the bar because Trump is bad? Nothing else is bad because Trump is bad?
But that can also be true.
Yeah, but the ship has sailed. It's out in the ocean somewhere with Biden.
We have Trump
it's over. Get over it.
No, we have Trump because you guys screwed this up. With all due respect.
All right, but does it help?
Like the absolute childishness of Joy Joy's response. Oh, but what about Signalgate? It's like, yeah, that was a mistake that shouldn't have happened. I called it out. I made a whole video about it. But that was Mike Waltz making a mistake. That wasn't even Pete Hegseth, nor was that Donald Trump. Trying to equate that to it's totally perfectly fine that we had a president for 4 years who wasn't mentally fit is so disingenuous, and it just shows the pure partisan hack that they are. When you're so obsessed with seeing yourself as the good guy and believing that you can't do anything wrong because in your mind it's coming from a place of good intention, but the way that the people perceived your supposed good deeds forced them to vote for the bad guy, should let you know that maybe the stuff you're doing isn't so good after all. But that would require self-awareness, which we know the Democrats don't have. Now here's where Sonny and Alyssa get into their little cat fight when Sonny just wants to utter nonsense and Alyssa keeps fact-checking her.
I actually think we
I
have
mean,
Trump
really?
because Trump lied to people. I think that's why we have
Well, he won more votes. That is a fact.
I think he lied to his base. I think he told his base that they were going to, their overtime would not be taxed. That was a lie.
Actually, that's in the new tax bill. It's literally in the tax bill in
They had to
Congress.
fight to put that in. They had to fight to put that back in. He had every intention of taking away that.
That's not
I
true.
don't-
He
I don't-
ran on
I
no
don't-
tax
I
on
don't-
tips, and
I
it's in
don't-
the tax bill.
Yeah, but it wasn't in it originally. I also think
being drafted
that a lot
right
of
now.
people are, and Swazi pointed it out that it wasn't in there. I think the other thing that people need to realize is that they were lied to. Federal workers that voted for him, farmers that voted for
Immigrants
him,
that thought
immigrants
he'd
that
fix
voted
the
for him,
border, but-
they were lied to. That is why we have Trump, not because
And I'm going to
of
give
any
you
other driving
Okay, I'm going to
force.
give.
We were lied to, which is such a wild thing to say because despite what the liberal media might lie and say about Donald Trump, one thing that is like a complete consensus with them is that he's doing exactly what he said he would do. The Democrat myth that all Trump voters are regretting their vote and we didn't see any of this coming or expect any of this or don't like any of this has been debunked time and time again. But again, it's so much easier for them to lie, to live in delusion, to exist in a world that isn't real. And that's why they can't connect with the American people, because they choose to live in a different existence than them. Like Sarah and Alyssa both pointed out in this video, the Democrats ignored the voters and told them to shut up and care about what the Democrat Party wants. And Trump has highlighted what all the clear 80-20 issues are, but the Democrats are continuing to do what got them into this situation in the first place, ignore the voters. Their platform is still more government spending, more illegal immigration, more men and women's sports, more DEI, more anti-American down with Western civilization culture, and they're making it clear that they're not about anything else. They're hoping they can maintain the same extremely unpopular set of policies and lie and smear and discredit Trump so much that people may return back to them and give them their vote without them having to make any fundamental change to their platform. Now, the last thing I'm going to show you is Alyssa going on CNN this morning and talking about the interview they had last week with Joe Biden on The View. Now, if you have not seen the video I did on that, it is brutal. I'll link it at the end, but her assessment of the interview on CNN is equally as brutal. Watch.
Can I ask one
Democratic
quick
process.
question, Alyssa, about that interview? I mean, what did you make of the fact that Jill Biden was there with him?
I thought it was very unhelpful. I asked the specific question about allegations of his cognitive decline, and he began to answer it, and then she jumped in for him. And I get it, as a spouse, you want to help your partner, but that was his moment to knock out of the park any fear that he has cognitive decline, and it played into basically the worst assumptions, that he can't finish sentences and she had to help him out.
I remember this exact question because I went on a long rant about it in the video, but she specifically asks him about his mental decline, and in the process of defending himself, he loses his train of thought and just veers off into the ether. And Jill Biden has to step in and give a defense of him, and it literally looks like this man is brain dead and she's his caretaker. And her being front and center for that explains her harsh criticism of the Democrats and their cover-up of his mental health decline, because it was so clear as day for her in that moment that she was like, wow, they really thought this guy could be president another 4 years. She knew in that moment that the Democrats were complicit in one of the most scandalous usurpations of the American government that's ever happened. Our government has had a functioning president for almost 250 years, except the last 4. That's what we're so mad about, that the Democrats want to ignore and want us to keep moving on from. The powers of the president, the will of the people, was usurped by a bunch of unelected Obama staffers. The only positive thing that came out of the Biden administration is the Democrat apparatus, the entire machine, was able to be mobilized in a way that displayed their true intentions with almost no obstruction. We saw that their goal was to import the third world in droves and have them siphon off the American welfare system. We saw that they wanted to create a meritless, Marxist, racist ideology that will destroy all of our institutions. We saw they wanted to create a culture of sexual deviance, the acceptance of filth, the encouragement of mutilating, chemically castrating, and mentally harming children. They showed that to them, a woman is a mere costume that men can appropriate. They embraced weakness, victimhood, guilt, and shame. And that did irreparable generational harm to the Democrat Party that they will not recover from for a while. But let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Turn on the notification bell so you never miss a video. And I'll see you guys in the next one.